You saved me, Luke. I'm not saying I'm sorry. What?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, David Collins.
Hello? Hey, there we are. How you guys doing? Welcome to day one of Star Wars Celebration Anaheim. I still can't get over that trailer this morning. I almost passed out. I thought I was nervous about this stage. I was like, no, I'm just going to pass out from that trailer. We have so many great things this weekend. Of course, throughout all of Celebration, kicking it off this morning with J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars The Force Awakens. That was incredible. And of course, we have, starting tomorrow, we've got a couple of really amazing things here on the digital stage that you absolutely don't want to miss. But starting tomorrow, you're going to be able to see a bit of Star Wars Battlefront right here in interactive debut, but not until tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we have the Season 2 premiere of a little show called Star Wars Rebels. Well, Rebels is something that I'm just really, really loving. I cannot wait to see more. And Season 1 was incredible. And of course, we know that Season 1 and Star Wars Rebels came out of the creative team that made a show called Star Wars The Clone Wars. And so, boy, do we have a treat for you right now. We have, of course, the executive producer of Star Wars Rebels, but he was a creative director on Star Wars and Clone Wars. And the creative executive at Lucasfilm, you know them, of course. They need no introduction, but I'm just going to bring them up right now. Please welcome Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo. We sprung for the cushy chairs this time.
I guess so, yeah.
Nice.
When we pictured this panel, I never pictured a room this big. It's a lot of people.
Yeah, there were 3 people in the room when we were talking about it.
Yeah.
I figured that would be the size of it.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
No, you guys are Clone Wars fans, right? Well, so this panel is the Untold Clone Wars, right?
Yeah.
Now, I personally, we were talking about this backstage, which is funny because I just shook your hand like we haven't seen each other in a while. But
Okay.
we were just backstage together. But we were talking about this because you have released quite a bit of Clone Wars material since starting Star Wars Rebels, starting with the Lost Missions that you released, Season 6 on Netflix. And then, of course, the Clone Wars Legacy content on StarWars.com, which was awesome. You know, it was great to see that stuff, but I understand.
Let's not forget the Darth Maul comics that adapted.
That's right.
That's right. So a lot of scripts, a lot of ideas came out of that creative process for you guys. So what are we looking at today? The Untold Clone Wars. What does the Untold Clone Wars mean? I've been kept in the dark.
Well, yes, you have.
Seriously, I have. I want to know.
Pablo and I, well, I mean, we get together all the time, almost every day. It's obviously right in your mind, and of course, we talk about Star Wars all day, and we still talk a lot about Clone Wars. A lot of what we do in Rebels is still really relevant to what we did in Clone Wars and stories and characters. So, you know, and Pablo and I have had this thing the last several celebrations where we like to get in front of everybody and talk kind of in detail about the Star Wars universe, a deeper dive and look at the characters. So since Clone Wars hasn't really had anything in production, we thought, well, let's take all this information that he and I know, all these scripts that we have, all these drawings that we had done, all these story reels that were shot, and I keep seeing, I mean, it's really funny. I can't go at anything about Rebels without seeing, like, hashtag Dave Clone Wars people saying, bring back Clone Wars, you know, and all this stuff everywhere I go. Bring back Clone Wars. And I personally really appreciate that. Making that show meant so much to me. It meant so much to the crew of Clone Wars. The outpouring at its cancellation really blew our minds. So it was really, Pablo and I said, let's give something back to these people. They obviously love Clone Wars still. We have a bunch of stuff, so let's get together and talk about it. And that's what we're going to do today.
That sounds exciting. I am more than okay with this. That's great.
Just start off with, I went through a few sources, including Dave Filoni's sketchbook, which we scanned some images from. There was some imagery that was already done by the art department, led by Killian, and in some cases we actually have proxy animation, low-res animation footage that we can show you today. So.
That's cool. So you have whole, let me make sure I understand, you've got whole sequence animation footage that is done that we're going to look
that's
at.
never been seen before.
Yeah.
And who knows if it can be seen again.
Who knows? I never know. But we were in the middle of shooting several episodes. The way the production worked, we worked on multiple episodes at a time. What got to all the way to final animation and the final Yoda episode, season 6, was kind of where the cutoff point went with animation. That okay, this stuff will be finished through lighting, but there were all these other things coming down the track that were in various states of completion. So that's a lot of what we brought today.
And we get to see this. You're blowing the lid off this?
Yeah, we asked if we could do this, and no one said no. So I'm not sure. We were worried now, because we're like, are we sure? Maybe they were really distracted by that big panel they had this morning. And people are like, yes, Dave, Pablo, yes, you can show that stuff. I'm like, really? Okay. How about this? Sure. How about this? Sure. Come on, Pablo, let's go.
If the lights go out, come back, and we're gone, we'll find out what happened.
Yeah.
The lights are still on, so maybe we should not push our luck. Let's roll something.
If we could go to slides here.
Yeah, if we got slides up?
Yeah, we do. So
there we go.
let's take a look at these characters.
Do you want to go full screen on this?
Yeah, if we could go full screen on imagery, they don't need to see us.
They don't need to see us.
Just give it a second, but if you want to start talking about, about that.
Now, it's not exactly a secret that we were going to come back to this part of the universe, I guess it's safe to say. And we actually showed a little bit of this in Germany. And how many people here actually went to Celebration Germany? All right. So, apologies for showing you something again, but hopefully you liked it. So, yeah, you want to...
Well, we were bringing Cad Bane back. We had, those of you that follow the Clone know, we focused on a lot of character groups. So there was usually a bounty hunter series of stories, the Jedi series of stories, droid series of stories, and then clone-centric arcs. The next arc that involved the bounty hunters was really finally bringing the two big bounty hunters and Boba Fett and Cad Bane together. And it was a story about their interaction and got into, Cad Bane knowing Jango and a bit of history about that. For that, we did an updated Cad Bane, so this is going to be his costume, which is actually slightly different than the one he had in the previous episodes of Clone Wars. As the models and animation have improved, we tended to upgrade the model.
And these episodes, oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, that was his ship, the Justifier, designed by Russell Chong. Cool. It had a reorienting centerpiece thruster. That kind of, you see that big tall pillar, it folded back flat into the ship and folded up. We got to see that. Unfortunately, never gonna happen, but it was still cool,
Well, let's show this to the Hasbro guys. And maybe
well, there it is. Someone will make it. I hope out of foam core, but.
Well, I think about all the, for example, the Ralph Corey concepts that are in Rebels, right? And a lot of stuff that you guys have gone through with concept art on Episode 1 and other movies, and taken those and incorporated them into the Clone Wars, and then of course now into Rebels. So I look at this as a Star Wars fan and think, well, you never know.
Never know.
Nothing gets thrown out.
Exactly, nothing gets thrown out. This could show up in, ooh, what's this?
So we were going to go to Tatooine in the start.
Yeah, definitely. This is a Tusken Raider shaman leader, and part of the story, the episode was basically...
Is that a Womp Rat skull or something? What is that?
I can't remember. I think it was like a baby crate dragon we were working off of, but it was basically George likes the movie The Searchers, so we were doing an episode where Boba and Cad kind of teamed up to rescue this kid that had been kidnapped by Tusken Raiders. And it followed a very similar plot, so we did a lot of development on Tusken Raiders for the episode.
Another one here. See how it translates to the Clone Wars style.
This one lost an arm.
Yeah, we can't do as much cloth on Clone Wars, so we had to find ways to simplify the outfit so there wasn't a lot of simulation involved. You can see all the details that go into keeping something classically, classic look. A lot of it, and we do this on Rebels now, is based off of Kenner toys.
Yeah. How did Kenner translate those
It's
roles?
true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Oh, that's interesting, in order to avoid cloth sin, basically. Yeah, but then it's also retro. That's fantastic. It's very smart. Let's do that.
These? Yeah.
The dewback, yeah. We gave him a little hat. I really liked that. That's the thing I love most. You know, he put a little hat on him. I'm like, oh, look. And he looked like he's smiling. But it was kind of cool to think of Cat and Boba riding these dewbacks out into the desert.
Well, those dewbacks now, did you get to animation on those as well?
Well, David, no. But
okay.
That just sounds disappointing. So let's not talk about it. It's okay.
We do have a little something to show from this episode, though.
Oh, cool. What do you do?
So, if we can roll that first clip.
We're about to be ambushed.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we are completely surrounded. It's going to be a pretty good scrap.
We can take him.
Oh, I'm sure we could, but instead, I want you to let yourself get captured.
What? No way.
Right. The only way we're going to be able to find their camp is if they take you alive and drag you back to it. Take this tracking device so I can locate you.
Can I at least put up a fight?
Just don't overdo it. You don't want them to kill you. Get ready. Here they come.
I do hope that young Boba will be all right.
Don't worry, Toto. He should be fine. As long as those 7 people ain't hungry.
How do we speculate? Would one speculate that he knew that he was surrounded? It's just a change in the air, or he just kind of knew? Or?
A lot of that was just to show that Cat was a vastly more experienced hunter. So he had a sense of these things. He probably knew along the way that they were being trapped, and that, of course, is Corey Burton playing Cad Bane, Seth Green playing Total 360, and Daniel Logan playing Boba Fett. I really loved working with those guys. They did a great job.
And that's a rare example of material that it has the voices in it. Most of this stuff that's in progress, they never even got that far where it had full cast recording it.
So that was final voiceover.
For that sequence.
For that sequence.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nice.
Basically, that would have been shipped off to be animated once it was locked. So it was pretty close.
Wow, it's incredible. That was really great. It was great to see the dynamic, sort of the sort of mentor dynamic there. I'd be really curious to know kind of where that could potentially go in other stories or comics or something like that. Especially after seeing Django.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But hey, you planted the seed, right?
Well, something Pablo and I do quite a bit is we try to find a home for some of these stories, like the Darth Maul story ended up in comics, and even more recent stuff.
So we're always looking at it, always trying to figure out when the time might be right to revisit some of these ideas.
It's incredible. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Moving on to the next. Here we go.
Oh, cool. Wait, that looks like a Wookiee riding a giant monkey.
Yeah. That is what that is. George had this idea that the Wookiees knew these giant tree spirits. And so I sketched this for him, and then you see the little yellow post-it on there. It's because he didn't like the first head I drew for it. So
Really?
Yeah.
So that's a scan of your binder?
Yeah. So I put a post-it on it and redrew it, and then he liked that one much better. But the Wookiees could kind of summon these giant tree gods and ride them, but it was a very kind of religious thing for them. They didn't like to do it. They didn't like to take them necessarily into battle. It was a kind of a benevolent way of looking at their existence with nature, really.
Wow, that's really great.
Yeah, I like that one.
We had shown this one online on Dave's blog, I believe, but since this wasn't going to be an arc specifically that visited Kashyyyk, and it's just a great piece. So.
Yeah, I like the idea that the clones that worked with Yoda would have kind of smacked his face on their helmet and stuff. You look at the front of that clone, that guy has kind of a silhouette of Yoda's ears going back on the helmet, which is kind of fun. And it was always kind of neat to get to, I mean, you know, to draw Chewbacca and Yoda, and that's my job. It's always, to this day, 10 years, it's still really fun to do. And drawing Yoda for George was always great. He is his favorite character in a lot of ways, so I just had to make sure I drew it right.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah, this was a scene that happened in the arc where Tarful basically was asking permission of the forest to kind of go into battle and do some things that were rather challenging. In a bigger portion of the story arc, it was a Trandoshan leader was working for the Separatists, and basically they had an alliance with the Separatists to attack Kashyyyk, and in order to kind of get them out of the city of trees, the Wookiees were going to have to burn a portion of the forest. The clones had no problem doing this because strategically it made sense, but it was very upsetting to the Wookiees. So you had kind of a push and pull dynamic between the Wookiees and the clones where they didn't really get along, but they were trying to find a common purpose in fighting the Separatists. But
those are ideas that have been around for a while, right? It's pre-episode 3, even when episode 3 was in production, that was around.
Some of George's earliest notes really talk about the way the Wookiees commune with the trees. And if you find, and this is another thing that we do, is that we've got all these old interviews that George did back in '77, where he was basically speaking in the voice of the characters to someone in Lucas Licensing at the time, giving them the sort of information they need about the backstories. There's one where he goes on and on about Kashyyyk, and it talks about their ability to commune with nature, and it's almost Force-like, their sensitivity to what the trees are like.
Wow. Wow. And with the Trandoshan connection as well, and obviously you had that great arc in season 3. You guys remember the Trandoshans in season 3?
The Padawan Lost.
Padawan Lost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those were great episodes, and so the Trandoshans kind of come back and.
That's from your report.
Very good.
Yeah.
I directed them. You think I remember the name? You're right there. It's so impressive. I've hit that point 10 years in where I can't hardly remember anything anymore. And I'll go up to Pablo, what is this thing? What is it? What is a momom? And he goes, Dave, that's something you created in me. And I'm like, oh, right, momom. It's like Momo, like Airbender. Okay, yeah, no. I never remember it. Thank God you're here, Pablo.
Job security.
It really is.
So these episodes, you're going to see more of these guys.
Oh, yeah.
Was going to talk about, well, I want you to do the honors.
The Bad Batch?
The Bad Batch. Yeah.
This is the Bad Batch. This is what you're going to see tomorrow.
Does everybody know about this? We have a screening in here of Bad Batch, the Clone Wars episodes.
Yeah, it's
tomorrow.
4 episodes. Basically, it will look like proxy animation, like you saw the Cad Bane stuff. And George wanted to explore the idea that there were clones that had kind of, at creation, at birth, specialized traits. And after the Clone 99 incident at the beginning of that, what was it, Rookie, the previous episode?
Yeah, season 2.
Yeah. That the Kaminoans and the Republic had decided not to kind of dispose of some aberrations like 99, but to actually impose further mutation on them to create genetic super soldiers, kind of. So the Bad Batch were the expression of these elite squad super soldiers, and the writers, especially Matt Mikovits, got very into the Bad Batch, was his favorite, so much that I keep forgetting that he didn't write the first arc, it was Brent Friedman, which was rather shocking to me, because Matt talks about Bad Batch all the time. That's all he talks about. Being Rebels, he talks about Bad Batch all the time. So I'm screening this for him in a lot of ways. I know he will be there and be very excited about it, and I hope everybody else gets excited about it too. It's very different to have clones that aren't quite clones, and it works in more of the original Super Commando idea that you see Boba Fett being thought of as an Empire, more along that line.
And so you guys will get to see the first 4 episodes that introduce the Bad Batch. There was another arc that was going to follow that, and that's the Kashyyyk arc that we've just been talking
The
about.
one that actually wrote.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got a clip from that we could show.
Oh, let's show it.
And this is temp voice.
This is all tenor voice related.
Yeah! That was great! No, it is not. Yeah, that was really great. It was great to see the clones having their kind of own personalities and different armors, kind of a mashup of Republic commandos and your standard clones, especially the blasters, you know, things like that.
Oh yeah, we worked specifically out the video game blasters.
Yeah, because there's DC-17 there and all that stuff.
Exactly.
That's really, really cool. And then just to see Wookiees kind of, Kashyyyk just seems so filled with opportunity to explore like that. So what were those, tell us about those creatures, those kind of praying mantis.
You know about those are
netcasters.
Yeah, they're from a video game.
That's
They were in, were they down in Untold Republic?
Oh, I should know.
I can remember fighting those things somewhere, and I said, I want them to fight those things. They were annoying. Now our guys killed them, so Kyle Dunleavy and his team did that scene, and it was really great, really nicely animated for proxy level. It's easy to direct because you can see it so clearly at this level, versus storyboards sometimes kind of pop around from drawing, which is still beautiful, but here there's real flow to the action, the timing. And I think that one Wookiee who's really breaks the guy in half, and he had these kind of forearm things he could just punch you with, like big Wolverine-like almost claws. I think his name was Major Clavito.
Yeah, that's right.
That was what George called him. I was like, really? That's very bizarre. But
He's got a
it
Major
was
Claws.
kind of, I like those weird names. They thought Bob Venamore was the villain.
That was the Trandoshan.
Yeah. So,
So
fun stuff.
we'd actually shown that clip in Germany and didn't get in trouble for it, so that's why we're showing it.
That's
Oh, good, well, good.
So far, so good.
Yeah, this stuff no one's seen.
Oh, yeah. Venture.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a big plan for Ventress. I mean, all said, she had about 8 episodes to go. And one of the things George was most happy with was the development of that character once we kind of dethroned her on the Sith track and kind of threw her into the Night Sisters world. And she became an independent. She became much more dimensional and kind of interesting. So she had this big crossover story with Quinlan Voss, actually, who was coming back for a big part of the story.
Right, awesome, that's great. Yeah, she had a really satisfying arc as a villain because of all those backstory flashes during the Night Sisters episodes. And yeah, that's great too. I mean, we left off last time, she was in Ahsoka's arc, you know, when Ahsoka was on the run.
Yeah, I proposed a couple different things that would actually cross them over again, but it wasn't something that I could get George to bite on. But I had something where Ahsoka and her had teamed up at one point at a pretty critical passage. Something this drawing I was like, was Katie Lucas and I were interested in her having some kind of punk hair. You know, really kind of intense. Reminds me of your hair. You got a cut for that? Like, very good. You nailed it. As soon as I walked on here, I'm like, you look like Adventures with hair.
Awesome.
I wonder if you know that. Well, you nailed it. It's perfect. I guess it worked then. Stand up for a second if you could.
We'll put you on the spot.
We'll put you, no pressure.
Adventurous haircut.
Yeah. Come forward a little bit so everyone can see you. Wonderful. That's exactly it. It's nice to know it works, actually. When I draw it, I'm like, I wonder if someone can actually do that. And there you did it. Thank you so much. That's cool. That's awesome. And there you go.
See those highlighted earrings too?
The whole thing. That's awesome.
So she has a punk haircut.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I love that.
Well, you're bald so long, but people change. Sabine has crazy hair.
That's right.
So we'll see if she keeps that. You never know. But this was Ventures to Ship. So you have to get your own car now, too. This is a take on Doug Chang design.
That's right.
For the gunship from Attack the Clone.
For a gunship,
Yeah, I think
or
we
the
call
Republic
it-
gunship, sorry.
We call it the Banshee, is what it was called. So I like that.
Kind of a side-loading type of...
This ship, I don't think it's too big a spoiler.
I don't think so.
But this ship will actually show up, we gave it to somebody else in Rebels.
Change the paint job. It's a
Change the
different
paint job
ship,
and we'll change
same
the
model.
proportions a little bit, but it will show up because I like it. So. Well, nothing gets thrown away.
Is it a crazy paint job? Like a crazy, weird, crazy paint job?
No, we made it more like something
Multicolor.
Ralph would do.
Oh.
That design is not, that paint job is not something that Ralph would do. It's something that would have been more prequel era, so we simplified it and made it more standard colors and stuff that Ralph would do, but it's pretty cool.
I'll stop fishing. I was just wondering.
That's fine, you fish away. You never know. With Clone Wars, I can almost say anything except really critical things, like stuff about Ahsoka. So I can't say that stuff. We'll get to that.
We got Quinn showing up.
That's cool. We
And
got
this
Blaster.
outfit, you might know, this was more like the comic book outfit.
Yeah, this was much more like what he was wearing closer to the end of the Star Wars Republic series.
Yeah, I mean, as it went along, I tried really hard to blend elements from the EU into what we were doing on Clone Wars when George was in favor of it. And Voss, we did a slightly different outfit at first, and the model came out okay, but we redid the entire model, the facial model, and tried to get it a lot closer, Every now and then from the EU, there were big things that I had to go off track, like the Mandalorians and their pacifism, which was different than I know what was perceived in a lot of the material, but that's the way George wanted it. But when I could, I tried to stay pretty faithful to EU stuff when we would use it, at least visually, because I know how much it means to people to
The
do that.
situation with Quinlan is interesting because George was particularly enamored with that character.
He was, yeah.
So he read the comics, he liked this character and inserted him into the show. And though his first appearance in season 3 is a little bit more jocular, a little bit more fun-loving, this story arc would put him through a lot more gears that would turn him more into the darker, brooding character that we're familiar with in the comics.
So, in terms of characters like Quinlan Voss, or even Asajj Ventress, or some of these characters that maybe were pre-established before Clone Wars, how does that come about with George? Did he find it in the comic book first? Was it something that was introduced to him by a research group? How did he find Quinlan Voss, for example?
He's interested in, he loves Star Wars, so he probably would pick up a comic book and say, I like this guy. But it doesn't mean he would be beholden to use that stuff as it was used. Mainly, I found he liked the way something looked.
Yeah, he's so visual. He gets first dibs on every piece of Star Wars art that's ever made. So he has the option to buy that. And if you go into some of his workplaces, there's great licensing art from all ages along the walls. He loves them. And I have a feeling that he just ends up loving some more than others. Like you'll buy a picture of Ayla Secure and go, that's great, I need to put that in a movie. And he did,
Well, like with Ventress, I know that he liked her, but then as it evolved, he did not like that she was some acolyte of Dooku's. So he engineered a story that got rid of that and threw her down, and then, she became in some ways more interesting on her own as an independent.
Well, the Night Sisters is an interesting example of, I've got this idea. Well, there's this thing called Night Sisters from Courtship of Princess Leia. Where it was and then it's like, well, why don't we call them this?
Exactly.
And why don't we call it Dathomir? So that's kind of the, so it kind of came in at both
Joined in
angles.
the middle, yeah.
That's
and
very
every time there's a real panic, I go to Pablo and Leland, and I'm like, you're not going to believe what we're doing. The Mandalorians are pacifists.
We'll make it work.
How are we going to brace for this? And then we do. We try to figure it out. The we have a clip of.
Oh, let's show it. Yeah.
So you'll like this. This is a clip of Ventress. So
Get to
this
see
is
her
some
in
stuff
action.
we were gonna do with her.
They're my home.
This is easy.
What is this?
It's called a tackle.
Who are you?
Relax. I've got this one, honey.
Honey?
I don't think so.
That was one of my editors playing Criminal Boss, Nick, and that was another one of my editors. She was playing Ventress. We would, in the process of making an episode, we would do a lot of changes to dialogue right in the editorial room. It's something I learned from George. We would, you know, record a temp track, but then we would keep rewriting lines and trying to find better lines. And it was something that he did as director and something he taught me to do. So I wouldn't want to waste the budget on having the actors actually read the lines and then have them redo it over and over and over again. So I had people within the studio. We called them the Big Rock temp crowd, and so all the different people that worked on the show would come in and voice the characters. And some of them get really obsessed with how good they are at it, and they're not good ever. My editor swore that like he was Captain Rex, and Henry Gilroy to this day thinks he does an amazing Obi-Wan Kenobi. But he's really, Henry doing James, doing you, and
doing Alec.
And it's like a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. So it's okay, but not as good as Henry thinks it is. So it's pretty funny stuff. I have just tons of them still recorded, and I'll call them sometimes. Like Justin Ridge, we used to call him in the middle of the night at 1 in the morning when we'd still be work editing. We had him playing Anaheim, Florida. He says, "Ciao basso, my sweet little pad mate," and then would just hang up. And we would like hold it up to Peter, call him, and hit answer and hang up. And so that's how serious our job is.
Yeah.
But it passes the time in editorial for sure.
Well, that was amazing. Even with temp voice, temp animation, temp sounds. I mean, that was a really elaborate sequence. I think you pointed it out when we were looking at this a little earlier. This is the one clip I did see before. And it's incredibly staged with new weapons, too. I mean, what was it? Can you talk about Ventress's
Her bow, her Night Sister
bow?
bow, her last vestige of
Yeah.
the Night Sister days.
Yeah, it's a sneaky thing. And that's the planet Pantora that was in an earlier arc. We had designed it several times, and we finally were going to go there and do this kind of parkour thing. The bow that she uses is a nod back to something that I love in animation, which was the original 80s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. And Hank, remember Hank had that awesome energy bow that could almost do anything Hank wanted it to, seemingly at the right time. And so that was a little bit of a nod to that.
I think you still see a little bit of Hank in Ezra's slingshot.
A little bit, yeah. I love that show. I still watch it, and without it, I don't know that I would have gotten into animation. It was really inspiring to me. So that was a little bit of where we got that.
One thing I was going to point out, that chase was going to continue, and among the sights and sounds of Pantora City, they were going to come across this statue. And I don't know who here can recognize what's at the top of that statue. That's Chairman Papanoida, a.k.a. George Lucas.
It was a funny shot. We had some birds sitting on it. And I was like, okay, well, as long as the birds aren't doing anything up there except sitting, we'll be fine.
It's kind of a Trafalgar Square kind of.
Yeah.
There you go. That's cool.
So, we won't get into what happens in the storyline, but in these, it's 8 episodes total. But at the halfway point, Count Dooku gets involved, and it becomes important for a mission that Asajj is on, for them to attack Dooku's lair on Sereno. So,
Are we showing that clip?
We are showing that clip.
Oh, wow, we're not supposed to?
Well,
Because
it's going to raise some questions,
That's great.
but that's all right.
I didn't know we got approval to show that
We
clip.
didn't get disapproval.
That is a really interesting way to look at it.
Better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission on this one? Is that the,
Yeah.
You guys want to see it? Oh!
Before we get to that,
There was this whole thing where they had to go to this massive separatist gathering on a planet. It wasn't on Sereno, it was on
Raxus.
On Raxus, and Ventress had to wear this big ball gown. Basically, you sneak into this ball.
There you go.
So I thought that'd be some,
All right, she's doing that tomorrow, apparently.
Okay. Talking to Ashley, about couture all the time and wanting fashion. So here's some Ventress fashion for you that she could fight in. So it still had little snake accessories, and that was a fun one.
All right, so we'll get into the clip. It's probably the less said, and the more seen, the better. So let's see what happens.
Wow. Wow.
So if you want to know what the heck is going on, this is where I have to be a little bit chilly and plug this, but we're actually quite proud of this. Dark Disciple, novel by Christy Golden, coming out in July. There's a poster that Del Rey is going to be making available. I don't know when, but harass them about it. And it's great. We gave the scripts over to Christy and to Del Rey. They were very enthusiastic to get it. And she turned it into a full-length novel, all 8 episodes, and it's a compelling read, so highly recommend it.
Do you need that?
No, you want it?
Give it to Adventure. She has the haircut.
Yeah, you'll get this.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's for you. Anyone who gets their haircut.
Yeah.
There you go.
So this book comes out in July, and is a perfect example of us all working together and trying to find places for these stories where it makes the most amount of sense.
That scene was amazing. I mean, it was really, just the choreography was so clever, and it was so great to get,
Did you hear there's a little nod to something else?
I saw Time Bandits.
Yes!
And I saw Captain EO with the Whip Warriors at the same time.
Time Bandits.
But I saw Time Bandits in there, like
I love
immediately.
Terry Gilliam.
But when he sends the Force Lightning down, I saw,
Yeah.
for those of you who remember the old Disneyland attraction.
Definitely Time Bandits when they fight the devil.
Oh, totally. It
It
was
was the heck
great.
out of me.
So,
Great Terry Gilliam movie, for those of you who haven't seen it.
So those were the core arcs that we want to talk about, but there's so much art. I'm calling this the lightning round, where I've just picked images.
Lightning round, and this was all approved?
Yes.
Okay.
So just quick stuff to talk about.
We was always a struggle to get all the council members on the Jedi Council. Finally, we were going to have them, so we were building the last couple. Pablo was one, which is now significant to me because she turns out she was Kanan's master, so that was kind of important.
Oh, cool.
It was great painting. Basically, you see on the left-hand side, those are medical units, almost like MASH units. That the shuttles over there, you see a medical shuttle, would carry in and drop onto the battlefield. This was in the aftermath of the big battle that occurred on
Fort Nantel.
Thank you. And oh, that's so great. This is basically the Republic mopping up after a battle between, I'm just going to tell you, because things were in free-for-all mode. So it was between the Separatists and the Mandalorians, actually. And the Republic came in and was wondering what the heck happened.
And this ended up in the Darth Maul, son of Dathomir arc. So, but I just want to show that the art that inspired the comic began in this form. Yes, that's also from that arc.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Maul's Mandalorian really took to the whole red and black theme thing. So, but on a filmmaking level, anytime you're having battles between similar groups, you need them easily identifiable on screen. So most of Maul's equipment and loyalists became red and black on some level, paint job wise.
Here's one for trivia fans.
Oh yeah, you can tell this is.
Oh yeah, finally, for those dying to know what Oppo Rancisis' lightsaber looks like. There it is.
I thought it'd be fun to make it similar to Dooku's, to show that it's not just one person's lightsaber, but it's a style of lightsaber. So this was a funny joke because I realized at one point that none of the clones, maybe outside of Rex, actually knew that Anakin was seeing Padme, let alone marrying her. So when you see the Bad Batch's gunship, they actually have this painted on the nose. Anakin sees it, and he looks at Rex, and he's like, what is that? And the Bad Batch are like, oh yeah, that's that Senator from Naboo. See any day. And then they get on the shuttle, and Anakin looks at Rex, and he's like, that is not staying on. But I thought it was a funny look at the world, so. It's like a World War II nod.
Yeah.
So this is for the TK fan out there.
Yeah, for whoever, I don't know who you are, who keeps hoping that Senator TK's the Quarren was going to show up in the Clone Wars. He almost made it.
He almost made it, and there was an above water city of the Quarren that we were going to do.
Yeah, we were going to go back to Mont Calar for another storyline set on the water world there.
Wow.
This I find fascinating.
George and I had a discussion about, Coruscant built vertically, and something that I always like is how a lot of churches are built on ancient sites, ancient pagan sites. They were other things before they became the present-day church that they are. So he and I discussed how if you delve down beneath the Jedi Temple to its ultimate base, that it's probably built on top of other ancient ruins of other religions of the Force. And ultimately, there was the possibility of being a Sith temple way down at the bottom of it. So if you delved into the temple vertically, this is some of the architecture that you would find. And there was a story where we journeyed down below the guts of the temple on Coruscant.
What happened in that story?
Tragic. There were these things.
Which is why you don't go down there.
Yeah, they fold up like those giant sleeping rocks, and then they unfold, and they're just like these giant kind of skeletal kaiju-like things, which I was really digging. But yeah, creepy stuff. And then this was Top Gun with clones.
Yeah.
Which was
Top clone?
Yeah, Top Clone. It was basically the Army clones, the ground forces got in an argument with the pilots. And their astromechs got in an argument, and R2 insulted the astromech, and it became this thing where Rex ended up having to fly a fighter with R2 as his co-pilot, and Rex doesn't fly, so he's mad at R2, and he was involved in this chase. It was just a total, military serviceman battle, ego royale, and then Rex, of course, crashes and is stuck with R2, so it turned out to be madness. I wish we got to do that one. It's pretty fun.
This is a
All right.
controversial one.
Yeah, that was a crazy thing.
Could you believe that this thing would ever
The
show up
Vaughn.
anywhere?
Wow.
This is me going through Dave's sketchbook going, Dave,
What are you
what
doing?
is this?
Getting all Vector Prime up in here.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
You know, once you make the Mandalorian pacifist and bring Darth Maul back from the dead, anything is really possible. We were working on a story that involved the Vong in a very minimal way. It was kind of a scout ship that was trying to assess the strength of the Republic and kind of what Jedi were, and it got a little bit into that. It was pretty creepy, and this was just an exploration I did of what a ship would look like, and all those kind of planets inside were going to kind of move and oscillate as it moved through space, and that's a Jedi cruiser in front of it, just to give you a sense of scale.
It was really playing, the storyline really played on the alien abduction vibe. It was almost like an X-Files episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
It was going to be pretty creepy, and then I started to explore some of the armor of what I had seen of the Vong and how I was going to take and distill it down to an animated style, but we never got that far.
Always in motion is the
Oh yeah. So these were going to be clone troopers that were like Ahsoka Tano loyalists.
Yeah.
Inspired by her.
I don't want to get too much into what that's about.
What if you got a little into what that's about?
Well,
Here we go. Let's talk about our girl.
okay, well, we of course weren't done with Ahsoka, and we had a pretty big plan for her as far as the, what would lead up to the end of the Clone Wars. Definitely, I'll say that the end of the Clone Wars TV series actually coincided with Revenge of the Sith and went past it. The final episodes of the series actually explained where Ahsoka and Rex and the major characters were during things like the Battle of Coruscant, during Order 66, and even like kind of up into where things happened after Order 66 was called. So it gave you context, so you could watch those movies and go, oh, okay, now I get where they were. This bike that you actually see behind her, you actually see it in Rebels. It's actually in this bike now, so I reused that asset because that asset got built. This was Ahsoka's new costume that we were gonna do, and I just really like this costume. It's kind of based a little bit more on a little anime kind of pop style. I asked Ashley what animal she would like on Ahsoka's food, and she said monkey. I don't like monkeys personally, I like wolves, but she picked a monkey, so I put a hoop monkey on there. And I just wanted it to be a little bit different of an outfit for her, something that we hadn't seen yet. And it was basically dealing with the repercussions of her deciding to leave the Order, and how someone that was raised in the temple, suddenly in the outside world, well, she was smart in a lot of ways, and now a soldier and a commander, she might not be as smart about how things work on the street and the type of people that she would lead as she tried to figure out a way to, if she was going to come back to the Order at all, or what it meant that now she had left the Order. And that's a detail of her bike right there.
And we have one last clip to show.
You do.
So the thing that we got really obsessed, I'll just set this one up a little bit, was that George and I talked a lot about actions that escalate. So you could have your primary action in a scene you're going to direct, but then what he loved about Indiana Jones was something else would happen. You would know what Indy's goal was, but on its way from getting A to B, there were all these other side things and things that get worse. So as I was directing on Clone Wars, I kept trying to challenge ourselves on like, how could we write things that escalate and escalate and keep getting worse? It makes the action more tense, it makes it funnier, and by the end I think we were finally starting to get it. So this scene, which involves Ahsoka on her speeder bike, will show you a little bit of that type of action, which is leaning, I think, a little more Indiana Jones than it actually was Star Wars, but it was something that directorially George and I wanted to explore.
That's great. You guys want to see it?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Oh no. What piece of junk? Should know better than to try to use Peter stuff.
That was fun. Final verse there.
Yeah, that was really fun when I really dealt with her kind of late teenage years. You know, when she got swindled buying a bike and
having to go out on her own for the first
time.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have some time for some questions. If we can, we're going to bring the house lights up a little bit and set up some microphones. In case you guys have some questions, this is a great opportunity with Pablo and Dave here to ask about some of this stuff. Maybe some other things. But there's going to be a microphone right here in this aisle, and I believe a microphone right there. No, yes, right here. Go ahead, right here, if the mic is on.
I really don't want to put you guys on the spot.
Oh boy, but you're going to.
But I'm going to.
Nice to practice. Go ahead.
So, I've been a Star Wars fan since I was 8. I'm 46. Clone Wars is my favorite TV show of my life. And so, when Disney canceled it, it really put a pall over their entire ownership of the franchise for me and for a lot of people. And we're just dying to know why. Why did they cancel it? It's beautiful. It's magnificent.
It's a fair question to me, and I appreciate the sentiment, I really do. I mean, obviously we had plans, and I felt very strongly about the show, given that, you know, I thought I learned a lot making it. I thought it is a great quality show. But, you know, would I have liked to finish it? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind I would have liked to. I also respect, though, that, you know, there's been kind of a big shift, and we're now telling new stories and setting a lot of things straight the way we want to. So, lost in the middle of all that for me, frankly, was a lot of people that I worked with a long time, but my main focus became, you know, ending Clone Wars and finding the best way to do that with Yoda, and then finding a way to put everybody on a new show in Rebels. So for me, Rebels kind of became the new focus in a way to, you know, keep all the work that my team and I had done on Clone Wars alive. And I know it's a very different show, but I think if it means anything, the people that I have working on these shows, they worked on Clone Wars, they worked on Rebels, they're the heart and soul of this whole thing. My main interest is keeping them in Lucasfilm, and they're going to continue to move forward and create, I think in the end, shows that surpass Clone Wars in the long run with the technology that we're developing at our studios. So, and I would say this, you know, don't let it throw a pall over or think they're happening. You know, Kathy and JJ love Star Wars. They're doing a magnificent job. The people working on the new movie are just brilliant. They care about Star Wars as much as you and I do. And what I love most about everything moving forward is it comes from a place of loving Star Wars. And in the process, you know, we lost Clone Wars, and I totally appreciate the disappointment, but our hope is to replace it with things in the future that are hopefully bigger and better and work off the experience we had making that. So, you know, the Force will be with us for a long time.
Thank you.